For over 1,000 years, it stood like a crown between two continents. Constantinople. Merchants, travelers, even spies spoke its name with awe. Behind its walls, secrets waited, and every secret eventually finds a key. Far away, in Ottoman lands, a young sultan studied maps by candlelight. His name, Mehmet. His dream, Constantinople. He smiled to the world, but inside, he carried a storm. On the Bosphorus, fishermen spotted strange sails in the distance. Were they traders, or the first breath of war? In the palace halls, Emperor Constantine XI walked alone. The walls had kept his people safe for centuries, but now he faced an enemy unlike any before. From the hills came the sound of iron on iron. A giant cannon was being born, so huge it could throw stones the size of oxen. Its maker swore no wall on earth could survive it. At dawn, the Ottomans arrived. Their camp stretched like an endless sea of tents. Banners snapped in the wind, and drums began to beat, a rhythm older than the city itself. Constantinople's walls were legendary, 3 layers of stone and brick, built to outlast centuries. Now archers lined the top, staring down at an army that seemed to have no end. The defenders unleashed their ancient weapon, Greek fire. Flames raced across the water, swallowing ships whole. But for every ship that burned, more appeared on the horizon. Across the Golden Horn, a massive chain stretched below the water, strong enough to stop fleets. It had worked before, but the Sultan already had another plan. This was the Sultan's answer to the chain. While the city slept, his men hauled ships out of the water, rolling them over greased logs across the hills of Galata. Torches lit the night as the impossible unfolded. By dawn, an entire Ottoman fleet floated inside the Golden Horn, having slipped past the chain without breaking a single link. The cannon roared, stones smashed into the walls, dust filled the air. For the first time in centuries, the city trembled. That night, fires burned low, the people prayed, and outside the walls, the drums kept beating, slow, steady, certain. The siege had only begun. May 29th, 1453. The walls were battered. Inside, church bells rang for one last prayer. No one talked of victory anymore, only of holding on to the very end. Emperor Constantine rode through the streets in crimson armor. He thanked his people, he blessed his soldiers. In his eyes, there was no fear, only the calm of a man who knew history was watching. The city grew silent. Even the waves seemed to wait. From the walls, soldiers saw the Ottoman army forming, row after row, a sea of steel stretching to the horizon. At dawn, the cannons roared again. A section of wall crumbled, and the Janissaries surged forward, their white plumes swaying like ghosts. The defenders fought desperately. There was no retreat. The battle spilled into the narrow streets. Swords clashed, shields broke, smoke, fire, and panic filled the air. Neighbors stood side by side, fighting for every stone. Near the gate of St. Romanus, the emperor vanished into battle. He cast aside his cloak so no one would know him. Just a soldier among soldiers, he fought to his final breath. Ottoman banners rose above the walls. The defenders were overwhelmed. Churches and palaces fell silent, buried under the weight of conquest. Mehmed entered the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church of Christendom. His voice echoed. It would now be a mosque. The chants of centuries were replaced by the call to prayer. Some fled, some were taken. The city's heartbeat had changed forever. Constantinople would live on, but under a new name, a new empire. Mehmed stood on the walls, gazing at his prize. He imagined Constantinople as the jewel of his empire, a bridge between continents, faiths, and worlds. The city of Constantine became Istanbul. Maps were redrawn. What had been the last bastion of Rome was now the beating heart of the Ottoman Empire. Even today, the fall of Constantinople echoes through history, reminding us that no wall, no matter how high, can stand forever against time. And here's the twist. This wasn't even the first fall of Rome. The Western Roman Empire had already collapsed 1,000 years earlier. Constantinople was the last to stand. If you want to know how it all began, check out my next video on the fall of Rome, the story of how the empire crumbled long before Mehmed ever marched to the walls.